What if I told you that the most electrifying star in women's basketball right now, the player rewriting expectations, breaking records, and drawing unprecedented attention to the league, could already be facing a future that no one is prepared for? Because this isn't just about hype anymore. This isn't just about highlight reels, Logo 3ES, and sold-out arenas. This is about pressure. Massive, suffocating, career-defining pressure. And right at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. Now, let's be real for a second. We've never seen anything like this. From college dominance to instant professional spotlight. Clark didn't just enter the WNBA. She exploded into it. Music. Every game watched, every move analyzed, every mistake magnified, and every success turned into a viral moment within seconds. But here's the part nobody is talking about loud enough. While the world is focused on her hype, something much bigger is quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Something that could determine whether her future in Indiana becomes a dynasty or a disappointment. Because this isn't just about Clark anymore. It's about the team around her. It's about decisions being made right now in rooms the public never sees. And those decisions, they revolve around one thing: free agency. Now pause, because free agency doesn't sound dramatic at first. It sounds like contracts, roster moves, routine business. But in this case, it's anything but routine. Because the Indiana Fever aren't just building a roster, they're building around a generational talent. And if they get it wrong, it won't just affect the team. It could impact Clark's entire trajectory, her development, her confidence, her legacy, and maybe even her willingness to stay. But wait, because just when everything seems like it's going according to plan, insiders are starting to whisper something that's making fans uneasy, that not everyone is on the same page, that key decisions could divide the locker room and possibly limit Clark instead of elevating her. And if that's true, then all this hype, all this excitement could be setting up something far more complicated. So, the question isn't just how good will Caitlin Clark be. The real question is, will Indiana make the right moves before it's too late? Because what happens next could define everything. And trust me, you're not ready for what's happening behind the scenes to really understand why this moment feels so intense. Why the pressure around Caitlin Clark isn't just hype, but something much heavier. You have to go back not just to her rookie season, not even just to draft night, but to the rise, the build-up, the expectations that were placed on her long before she ever stepped onto a WNBA court. Because Clark didn't arrive quietly. She arrived with noise. Historic college performances, record-breaking scoring, game-winning shots that felt more like statements than highlights. By the time she left Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball, she wasn't just a star. She was a phenomenon. The kind of player that changes viewership numbers, sells out arenas, forces the entire league to pay attention. And when she entered the WNBA, all of that followed her instantly. The weight of instant stardom. Now, here's where things get complicated. Because most players, they get time. Time to adjust, time to grow, time to struggle quietly before the spotlight hits. Clark, she didn't get that luxury from day one with the Indiana Fever. She became the center of everything. Every opponent circled her name. Every defense adjusted specifically for her. Every mistake became a headline. And every success, it came with expectations to do it again and again and again. But here's the part that fans don't always see. Because while Clark is carrying this massive spotlight, she's also entering a team that's still figuring itself out. The Fever's unfinished identity. Let's be honest, the Indiana Fever haven't been a dominant force in recent years. They've been rebuilding, searching, trying to find the right pieces to create something sustainable. And then Caitlin Clark arrived, and suddenly everything sped up. The timeline changed because now it's not just about development anymore. It's about urgency. Win now, compete now, build fast. And that kind of pressure, it can either create something special or completely break the foundation, the core around Clark. Now, on paper, the Fever have talent. Young players, athletic pieces, potential that if developed correctly, could become dangerous. But here's the issue. Potential isn't enough. Not when you have a player like Clark, because generational talents don't wait forever. They need structure, support, a system that allows them to thrive, not just survive. And this is where the conversation starts getting uncomfortable, because insiders are beginning to question whether the current setup is actually built for Clark's success, or if it's forcing her to adapt too much, too quickly, without the right support. Early signs of tension. Now, nothing has exploded publicly. No major conflicts, no dramatic fallout. But if you watch closely, there are small signs, moments on the court where things don't quite click. Miscommunications, frustration in body language. And again, this is normal for a developing team. But here's the difference. This isn't a normal situation, because every small issue it gets magnified, analysed, debated, and turned into a bigger conversation about whether the team is doing enough to the real pressure. Expectations versus reality. And this is where the real tension lies, because the expectations around Caitlin Clark are massive. Fans don't just want improvement, they want dominance, they want immediate impact, they want results. But the reality, building a winning team takes time. A time that the Fever may not feel like they have. And that's exactly why free agency becomes so critical. Because this is their opportunity to fix things, to add pieces, to build around Clark properly, or to make decisions that could complicate everything even more. The whisper behind the scenes. And here's where things start getting interesting because, according to insiders, not everyone within the organization agrees on the direction. Some want to go all in immediately, spend big, bring in veterans, accelerate the process. Others, they want patience, development, chemistry, long-term growth. Now, think about that. Two completely different approaches, and only one can win, because the choices made in this upcoming free agency period, they won't just affect next season. They'll define the entire structure around Clark moving forward. Why this moment feels different? Because this isn't just another off-season. This is a turning point. A moment where the Indiana Fever either build a system that elevates Caitlin Clark to her full potential or create a situation where she's forced to carry too much too soon. And if that second scenario happens, the consequences won't show immediately, but over time, they'll become impossible to ignore. But wait, because just when it seems like this is all about team building, there's another layer. One that involves specific names, specific targets, and potential moves that could either excite fans or completely divide them. And trust me, some of those rumored moves, they're already causing tension because not every big signing is the right fit. And what happens next? It's where things start getting seriously dramatic. Everything started with a rumor, not a confirmed report, not an official announcement, just a name. Quietly mentioned in insider circles, then suddenly everywhere. And that name, it changed the entire conversation around Indiana Fever overnight. Because, according to early whispers, the Fever weren't just looking to add depth. They were targeting a major free agent, a veteran, a proven player, someone with experience, leadership, and most importantly, a strong personality. Now, at first glance, and that sounds like exactly what Caitlin Clark needs, right? A veteran presence. Someone to take pressure off her, someone to stabilize the team. But here's where things took a sharp turn. Because the moment that name started circulating, so did the concerns fast. Because insiders began asking a question that nobody expected. Is this actually a good fit for Clark, or a clash waiting to happen? And just like that, what should have been an exciting move became controversial, because here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud. Not every star works well with another star, especially when one of them is the entire focus of the franchise. And Caitlin Clark, she isn't just another player. She's the system, the attention, the marketing, the identity. Everything revolves around her. So when you bring in someone with their own style, their own expectations, their own need for the ball, you're not just adding talent, you're introducing tension. And that's exactly what insiders are worried about. Because according to reports, this potential signing isn't just a role player. This is someone who's used to being the leader, used to controlling the tempo, is used to having the offense run through them. Now, imagine that dynamic for a second. Two players, both needing control, both expecting influence, both carrying expectations. It doesn't take much for that situation to shift from exciting to complicated. And here's where it gets even more intense. Because allegedly, there are already disagreements happening internally, not publicly, not confirmed, but whispered between those who want to surround Clark with supporting pieces and those who believe adding another big name is the fastest way to win. Now, think about that difference. One approach builds around Clark. The other risks building alongside her. And those are not the same thing. But wait, music. Because just as fans were debating this rumored signing, another twist hit. And this one nobody saw coming, because a second name entered the conversation. And unlike the first, this player fits Clark's style almost perfectly. A floor spacer, a high IQ player, someone who thrives off movement, passing, and fast decision-making, the kind of player who doesn't compete with Clark, but elevates her. And suddenly the conversation flipped again, because now it wasn't just who should they sign. It became, which direction are they choosing? A star-heavy approach or a system-first approach? And here's the part that's making this even more dramatic, because sources are saying the decision might not just be about basketball. It could be about pressure, ownership expectations, ticket sales, media attention. Because let's be honest, Caitlin Clark has brought more eyes to the WNBA than almost anyone in recent memory. And when that happens, decisions stop being purely strategic. They become business-driven. And business-driven decisions, they don't always align with what's best on the court. Now, imagine being in that front office right now. Every move you make is under a microscope. Every decision will be judged instantly. And if you get it wrong, it won't just hurt the team. It could impact Caitlin Clark's development, her confidence, and potentially her long-term future in Indiana. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Players like Clark don't stay in situations that limit them. Not forever. Not if they feel like the system isn't built for them. And while nobody is saying she's unhappy, nobody is saying she wants out. The pressure to get this right, it's massive. And just when it felt like the Fever were getting closer to making a decision, another report surfaced, and this one, it made everything even more complicated, because now there are claims that other teams are watching closely. Very closely, not just as competitors, but as potential future opportunities. Waiting, observing, seeing how Indiana handles this moment. Because if the Fever don't build this correctly, others will be ready. And that changes everything, because now this isn't just about free agency. It's about control, about direction, about proving that Indiana is the right place for a player who could define the future of the league. But here's where things are about to explode even further. Because the moment these rumors hit full mainstream attention, the public reaction, it went completely out of control. Fans didn't just react, they chose sides. And what they're saying, it's creating even more pressure than anyone expected. The reaction, it wasn't just loud. It was overwhelming. Within hours of those rumors spreading, the entire conversation around Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever shifted from excitement to full-blown debate. And not the casual kind. This was intense, emotional, divided. Because fans didn't just have opinions, they had strong opinions. Social media exploded first. Clips of Clark's plays were suddenly being used as evidence. See how she thrives with spacing. This is why she needs shooters around her. Don't bring in someone who slows the game down. On the other side, a completely different argument. She can't do it alone. She needs veteran leadership. Stop acting like she doesn't need help. And just like that, two completely different visions for her future started clashing in real time. But here's where it got even more intense, because former players started subtly stepping in. Not directly calling anyone out, but posting things that felt very intentional. One former star tweeted, "Young talent needs guidance, not pressure to carry everything." Fans immediately took that as support for bringing in a veteran. Then another voice responded hours later. Or maybe young talent just needs the right system. And boom, the debate exploded even further, because now this wasn't just fans arguing. It was people who've been there. People who understand how locker rooms work, how egos collide, how chemistry can either make or break a team. And then came the media. Major sports outlets started picking up the story, debates on shows, and panels discussing Clark's role. Headlines like, "Are the fever building around Caitlin Clark or complicating her growth? Big signing or big mistake?" And suddenly, this wasn't just internal pressure anymore. It was public, massive, unavoidable. But the most surprising reaction came from inside the fan base itself, because Fever fans, they weren't united, not even close. Some were excited about the idea of adding another star. Let's win now. We need experience. Bring in someone who can help immediately. But others, they were worried, deeply worried. This could mess everything up. She needs the ball in her hands. Don't rush this. And when a fan base starts splitting like that, it creates something dangerous, because now, no matter what decision the team makes, half the people will love it, music, and half will question it. And that kind of pressure, it doesn't just stay online. It reaches the players. It reaches the locker room. And eventually, it reaches Clark. Now, imagine being in her position. Every move your team is thinking about is being debated publicly. Every potential teammate is being analyzed before they even arrive. Every decision feels like it could impact your entire future. That's not normal pressure. That's something else. Something heavier. Something that can either fuel greatness or slowly create frustration. And here's the twist nobody expected. Because while all of this is happening externally, there are whispers that internally things might already be shifting quietly, subtly, but noticeably, because according to insiders, there's growing awareness within the organization that this decision is bigger than just roster construction. And it's about identity. What kind of team are they going to be? A fast, modern system built around Clark's strengths, or a more balanced structure that might limit her but stabilize everything else? And that question, it's creating tension, because you can't fully commit to both. At some point, you have to choose. But just when it feels like this is the peak of the drama, another twist is starting to emerge. And this one, it's not about who they might sign, it's about what happens if they get it wrong. Because there are now quiet conversations happening about long-term implications, not immediate, not obvious, but real and potentially game-changing. Because if this situation doesn't develop the right way, it could open doors that nobody in Indiana wants to think about yet. Doors that involve future decisions, future opportunities, and possibilities that could completely change where Caitlin Clark's career goes next. And trust me, when we get into that part, that's when this story goes from pressure to something much bigger. Ike, something that could define not just a season, but an entire legacy.